Hey guys, this is Shannon with your editing stylist. We are here today to discuss writing a plot outline. With your plot, there are 3 acts, and in these acts, there are smaller parts. And following this outline with the 3 acts, which is the setup, the confrontation, and the resolution, and then the little tidbits in between, you can develop a skeleton of your story, and then you can just fill everything in after you have this. But you can make sure that you are meeting all of your necessary parts, all of the parts that keep your story whole, and make sure that there are no plot holes. Make sure that there is fluidity. But do understand that having a plot outline is great. It helps you keep your story together, but at the same time, you may not want to stick to it 100%, be so rigid that you're not willing to negotiate with your plot outline, because it'll help your story flow more naturally. If while you're writing, something else comes to mind and it strays from your plot outline, that's okay. That's okay. I mean, that's your story telling you this is the direction that it needs to take. And please listen to that. So in the setup, we have the exposition, the inciting incident, and the plot point 1. Okay, in the exposition, this is where we're learning about your main character, the protagonist, maybe some of the supporting characters, what their relationships are, the setting, all this kind of stuff. You know, if they have a career, so on and so forth. This is where we're learning about who we're going to be reading about and what we're going to be reading about for the rest of this book. The inciting incident is setting in motion the purpose of your story. We need to know why we are reading this book. We need to know what is it that this character is wanting to know. Are they experiencing the loss of a loved one and it's an unsolved situation and they're wanting to get it resolved? That's an example. So we are wanting to know at this point, why are we reading this? And it's up to you to fill in the blanks. Then there's plot point 1. This is where you throw what I call the first twist. And this is when we think we know where this story might go, but you as the author have thrown this twist into the plot. So now we have to read more. We want to know more. And it is up to you to create this twist that makes us sitting on the edge of our seat to turn the next page. So after you've done all of this, you've set everything up, we are ready to move into Act 2, which is the confrontation. So we have the rising actions, which are small obstacles along the way, hopefully with resolutions, but they're setbacks, obstacles. Then there could be a major complication, like a car breaks down or their house got broken into or something like that, that they have to get taken care of before they continue on with their goal, with their outcome. So, you know, placing up these obstacles, these complications, will then lead us to the midpoint. After these obstacles, this complication, they feel really down. They feel really beat. There could be a breakup if it's a romance book. They're at their low. They're at their dark moment. This is where your character has hit rock bottom. They don't know what to do from here. This is where they feel they are at their lowest, and where we feel they are at their lowest. So hopefully from this point on, this is when the story starts to take the upswing. And we are given plot point number 2, which like I said with the first one, this is going to be the second twist. This could be a major twist where everything that the reader thought they knew, they didn't. But you know, and you've thrown this plot twist in. So again, we are reeled back into this story. We have to read it now. You have made this story irresistible to us because you've again given us another plot twist. So now that you've done this, we've had all of the education with the character and their situation, what they're wanting to find out. We've been on this emotional journey of Act 2 and all the confrontation and complications and obstacles along the way. Now we're going to move into Act 3. This is going to be where the resolution of your story comes into play. So the first part of Act 3 is going to be the pre-climax. This is the setup to the climactic scene. This is preparing us for the face-off between the protagonist and the antagonist, the hero and the villain, depending upon your genre. So we are getting prepared. It doesn't have to be a physical fight. It could be a battle of the wills. It could be mental strategies that come into play. Sorry. Anything like that. It could just be information that leads to an arrest by the villain. Any number of things. But we have this pre-climax leading up to that. We have the climactic point, which is where all this is taking place with your protagonist and your antagonist. And how is it going to end? We need to know now. We need to know, do we think it's going to happen the way we did? We need to find out why all of these obstacles and complications happened. Why are these plot twists happening? We need to have those answers. So this is where we're going to learn it. After the face-off between the protagonist and the antagonist, or during this face-off per se, that's when all of this information is going to come together. This is when all the loose ends are going to be tied together. Which then brings us down to the denouement. Which, this is when the character, the main character, your protagonist, reaches a moment of serenity again in their life. Calmness. But they are a much different person now at the end of this story than they were at the beginning of this story, because all of these events in between have happened. It's changed their outlook on life. It's changed their perception of who they are, which is what you set us up for in Act 1, remember? So now in Act 3, you've pulled all this together. You have fixed everything, and that is what we enjoy. That's why we read your story and why we started it to begin with, to get to this moment. So there are a couple additional points really quick that you can include on your plot outline. You don't have to. I strongly recommend it. I think it'll help improve the strength of your story and help you follow your path with much more fluidity. So there are things called pinch points. And pinch points are where we're getting little pinches or snippets of the antagonist throwing complications or twists into the story, which I mentioned earlier. But these timings are important. I would say pinch point number 1 could come at the end of Act 1, right before you're moving into Act 2, maybe kind of act as a cliffhanger, or somewhere in the midst of all these tiny obstacles and complications during the rising action in Act 2. Then your second pinch point could come at the very end of Act 2, sort of acting as a cliffhanger for your Act 3, or right before your pre-climax happens in Act 3, that's when you would insert pinch point number 2, where we're getting these little pinches, these little wrenches, per se, from the antagonist in the story. Then we have the character arcs. And I touched on this earlier. Character arcs are where you're throwing in these snippets of information that show how your character is growing throughout the story or changing throughout the story. Like the person that may have had separation anxiety. What situations are happening to where they are learning to overcome or deal with their separation anxiety, or accept it, or learn that it's okay to be alone, to be by themselves. So these are both important. Pinch points and character arcs are also very important. So please consider all of this information to help write a good, strong story with a great and strong plot. And you fill everything in between, and it's going to be amazing. We are here. If you have any additional questions, you can send us a Facebook message. You can visit our webpage and send us a message, or you can send us a message over email, which is youreditingstylist@yahoo.com. So please let us know if there's anything we can do. We really appreciate you tuning in today. We hope that this information was helpful. And we are always here for you. We're here to meet your editing needs. And remember, your book will say yes to yes. You have a wonderful night.